Hello and welcome to Dear Grief Guide, a podcast where each week I answer one anonymous letter from a listener feeling lost, stuck, heartbroken, or overwhelmed in the midst of grief. My name is Shelby Forsythia. I'm a grief coach and author, and I'm here to help you create a life you love from the life loss forced you to live. Let's get to today's letter. Dear Grief Guide, my husband passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack earlier this year, and now the holidays are approaching fast. He always made Christmas feel so magical for the kids. He would put the lights up the day after Thanksgiving and play Christmas music while we all decorated the tree together. Every year he'd make the kids hot cocoa and put on old claymation movies while they opened their pajamas on Christmas Eve. I'm struggling because I don't know how to make the holidays magical without him. Our kids are 5, 8, and 12, and they're all grieving in their own ways. My youngest asks about him constantly, while my oldest keeps everything bottled up, preferring to talk to her friends. My middle child swings between the two. I'm grieving too, but I don't want to let them down. I want them to feel some sense of joy, but the idea of doing our usual traditions without him feels unbearable. I'm stuck between wanting to honor his memory and feeling like I can't live up to the magic he brought to our family this time of year. How do I help my kids feel something special and meaningful again when all we feel is this huge loss? Thanks for any suggestions or advice you can offer. Signed, No Holiday Spirit. Hi there, No Holiday Spirit. I am so glad you wrote me. And right now, too, I think a lot of grieving people wonder whether or not they're crazy or weird for thinking about the holiday season as early as September, October. And my response is always, no, you're not. I have such a slew of personal grief dates between November and December that these fall months are a season that I often refer to as the tilt, kind of this irreversible, inescapable part of the roller coaster of my annual experience with grief, where I tilt into, metaphorically and literally, a season of darkness and overwhelm. And that is the holiday season. In my own world, my mother's cancer came back around Thanksgiving time. We received the prognosis that she was going to die about a week before Christmas, and then she died the day after Christmas. So this time of year is rife with reminders of grief for me, and they're not just limited to my mother. My cat who died earlier this year, I adopted him in the month of November, so I always think of him this time of year, and my very best friend who died suddenly from COVID in 2022 was Jewish, and so the season of Hanukkah was something we participated in together. She let me celebrate with her as her roommate when we shared a home together, and so doing things that honor that holiday without her now feels especially lonely and dark and empty. So this, I know of what you speak. I know I just interrupted myself, but I know of what you speak when you look to the holidays with dread, or even just this held breath anticipation of, I don't know what it's going to be, but I know it's not going to feel good. And that's a really, really hard way to approach what so often the rest of the world refers to as the most wonderful time of the year. So here's what I have for you. The big thing is, I want you to call a family meeting. Do it as soon as you can. You can do it right now if you want to. As soon as you finish listening to this podcast episode, call a family meeting with your kids, everybody in the same room together. Give everybody a piece of paper. You could all share one big piece of butcher paper, however you'd like to do it. And ask everyone, including yourself, so all 4 of you should participate in this. All 4 of you, please define 3 things that feel like the holidays to you. So your youngest should define 3 things, your middle child should define 3 things, your oldest child should define 3 things, and you should define 3 things. Make them very concrete action items that feel like the holidays. These could be baking cookies together, caroling in front of the neighbor's house, hanging stockings, opening pajamas on Christmas Eve, making hot chocolate, watching claymation movies. Whatever it is, everybody gets 3. If you had to pick the 3 things that feel the most like Christmas to you, what would they be? You can set a timer while you do this. If you have a family that tends to stray mentally, you can make it festive by playing Christmas music during this if you like. But here's the goal of this exercise. When everybody has their list of 3, say, we are all grieving this year the loss of your husband, the loss of your dad. And in order to decrease the amount of energy that is required of us to get through this season, we're not going to try and do all the things that we used to do. We're going to do our favorite things, the things that feel most like Christmas to us. And regardless of what else happens during the season, regardless of whatever religious events you get invited to, cookie swaps, pajama parties, movie viewings, Christmas in the park, the big light show, whatever else you get invited to, or is offered to you, or comes across your path in this holiday season, you will prioritize these activities that your family has listed. Amongst this list of 3, 3, 3, and 3, there's 12 in total, you might see some overlap. So maybe 2 of you named baking cookies together, or maybe 3 of you named making hot chocolate and opening pajamas on Christmas Eve. Great, that narrows your list down even farther. But as the parent, as the person who is steering this ship through the holiday season, your goal is to make sure these 12 or fewer activities get completed, because that is the holidays. That is the definition for your family this year. It can change next year, and the year after that, you have permission for this exercise to evolve. And everything that is not that is a loving, gentle, protective no. And something you can do with this list is call on your friends, your family members, other people in your circles who have said things like, let me know if there's anything I can do. Because if something on your list happens to be pretty big, like building a snowman out in the front yard, or baking dozens of cookies to mail to friends and family members, you might need some reinforcements. You might need somebody to help you pick out pajamas, or wrap presents, or make a playlist of Christmas songs. So anybody, mom, that you can lean out on to help you execute these 12 tasks, do it, please. This is the time of year where people not only expect to be given gifts, but are in an especially helpful mood to give and to offer of themselves as well, especially if you can name specific tasks that they can help with. So if you have a friend who loves shopping more than anything and doesn't mind braving the Christmas crowds, have them be the person to pick out the pajamas. They can send you pictures from the store. They can help you wrap them up. They can take them to the gift wrap section if neither of you has time to do that. But if you have a friend who's willing to be the chair of that outsourced task, excellent, wonderful, fantastic. If you have a friend or family member who knows your husband's cocoa recipe, ask them for it. If you know somebody who has the original claymation movies on VHS and you've got a VHS player, make it happen. Or somebody has a Apple Plus or a Hulu or a Netflix subscription where you can watch them, ask for their login. What are these tiny, tiny things that you can reach out for as the parent, again, as the person steering this ship of grief and family through the holidays? How can you lean out on your support network for resources this time of year? I also, as you're making this list of 12, encourage you during your family meeting, it doesn't have to be long, this could take maybe half hour, maybe an hour at the most, open up a conversation with your kids and ask them, where do you think Dad should show up in our holiday traditions this year? You can do something small and subtle, like giving everybody memory stones to carry in their pockets through the whole month of December. They can take them to school. They can put them under their pillow at night. They can take them to a friend's house for a Christmas sleepover. They can have something portable that reminds them of him to carry throughout the season. You can distribute articles of his clothing if you have access to things like that, and maybe the Christmas pajamas this year are dad shirts. Maybe that's what your family is doing together. You can do something grander or more visible, like setting a place at the table for him during a special meal. You could do something silly or over the top, such as having a stuffed animal or a picture of your husband, their father, that moves and rotates around the house like a sort of griefy elf on the shelf. Or even get something huge like a cardboard cutout to represent him and put a little Christmas hat on him and offer him gifts or make donations in his name so that it's more as if he is in the home and he is present while this is happening. While these may seem ridiculous, there is no wrong way to do the holidays with your kids after a devastating loss. That's the thing I really want to relay to you. It's what I'm trying to help with and to offer you today is this invitation to narrow down to the things that feel most important and say, this is our concrete list that we've all agreed on. We're going to try and do these 12 things this year, and that will be Christmas for us. Everything else is a maybe, and we'll decide, a week in advance, on the day, 24 hours in advance, if we have the energy for that. But these 12 things are our priorities as a grieving family, and then here's how we want to fold Dad into all of this. Making this conscious, literally writing it down, making it real and visualizable and able to be pinned up on the wall or hung in the refrigerator. This is a way that as a parent you can help your kids feel safe and protected and guided as they are also navigating this holiday season with you. There will be days when it feels like too much to bear. There will be days where one of your children is feeling the magic of the season and the other just wishes that Dad was home to celebrate with them. There will be moments where all of it is all happening at once, and all of it where you will all go to 4 different corners of the home to process without the sense of community that this time of year often brings. It is a weirdo time to grieve. The holidays are. And it will be different and take different shapes every year, but to establish this now, especially in your first holiday without him, this sort of prepping for the grief of the season can become its own tradition that you can all do together year after year until the kids move out, until you feel safe enough to loosen the reins, until you come up with new traditions that feel more fitting or have folded in old ones that remind you of your dad, but then are created by your family too together. But this is a wonderful, wonderful batten down the hatches sort of bare bones plan for here's how we're going to get through the holidays, here's what's vital to us, and everything else can fall away, can slip by the wayside. It's not that it's not important. It's not that it doesn't matter. It just doesn't define Christmas for our family this year. Next year we'll see. After January 1st, we'll see. You can build snowmen a lot of times during the year as long as there's snow on the ground. You can dress up in silly pajamas a lot of times a year. Just taking note of what feels important and significant to you. While it may feel, and probably will feel, calculated, less than magical, what that does do is make a plan for and make room for things that are magical to appear. And I know that's going to be something your heart is aching for this year, is to feel the magic. And so to do the work, no holiday spirit, of laying the foundations, of saying these are our non-negotiables, offers you a baseline of tradition and consistency and family participation so that everything else that happens in that, around that, outside of that, whether it's just to you or as a whole family or to your kids one-on-one or with the support of friends and family members, everything outside of that will have the potential to feel magical. And that, in and of itself, can act as a sort of hope and a sort of grief-filled promise of magic this time of year. I'm wishing you so much love as you do this exercise with your family. And, in the words of one of my favorite death doulas, Elua Arthur, feel no pressure to have a happy holiday. Simply have a holiday. That is all that's required of you. Good luck. That's all for this episode of Dear Grief Guide. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're feeling lost, stuck, heartbroken, or overwhelmed in the midst of your own grief, check out my free workshop, Grow Through Grief: 3 ways to stop feeling stuck and start moving forward. I'll give you 3 easy, actionable tools for navigating life after loss and show you how you can create peace, stability, and compassion right there in the middle of grief's confusion and uncertainty. You can find the workshop link in the show notes. If this podcast helped you feel a little less alone in your grief, please subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. And be sure to share Dear Grief Guide with a friend, because you never know what someone you love is going through. You can submit your anonymous letter for the show and find additional grief support at shelbyforsythia.com. Music for Dear Grief Guide is performed by Addie Goldstein. Editing by Rue Spence of Synivia. Until next time, I see you. I am so proud of you and the work that you're doing in the world. And I love you. Because even through grief, we are growing.